Hello everybody, this is Tiptop MTG here today with another Magic the Gathering news video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about all the spoilers that have come out today, that being June 5th. Obviously, I have to film this video at some time, so if something comes out later today, I will talk about it in tomorrow's video. So, why don't we jump right into this, starting with Containment Priest. By the way, this is the borderless version. Also, in the bottom right, you can see what set the card was last reprinted in. So, Containment Priest is a 2-cost white creature, human cleric 2/2 with flash, and it says if a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. Honestly, this is an amazing card for Standard. I believe it's also entering Pioneer, and maybe Modern. And what it allows you to do is basically say, hey, you know, a Winota, you don't get to actually do your things, because a non-token creature would enter the battlefield, and since it wasn't cast, it gets exiled. Now, they do still get to enter the battlefield, meaning you're still going to get ETB triggers, but if your opponent tries to resurrect something from a graveyard, cheat something in from a library, flicker their own creatures, you know, it will exile it. Yeah. And I mean, I guess if you cast it from your library or cast it from your graveyard, you can still get it to enter the battlefield. Let me clarify that. It just, if you're cheating it in, or if you're putting something directly from your hand onto the battlefield, that also won't work. So, very, very good card, and it has flash, so you can flash it in response to someone doing something like that. So, very powerful, pretty good sideboard card at least. Again, this is the the borderless version. Next, we have Pack Leader. It's a 2-cost creature dog 2/2. By the way, if you didn't see, all hounds are now dogs, so when it says other dogs, that includes all hounds previously printed. Other dogs you control get +1/+1. Whenever Pack Leader attacks, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn to dogs you control. So, allows you to guarantee swing with your dogs without really worrying, as long as they don't have something like a questing beast. And it's a pump for all your other dogs. So if you're running a dog deck, you are definitely running this card. Outside of that, you're probably not, but yeah, pretty good. We have a Ruined Halo. This is a 2-cost enchantment. Are you noticing a theme of 2-cost white cards? As it enters the battlefield, choose a card name. You have protection from the chosen card name. So again, very similar to Containment Priest, where this is good against a lot of different decks. There's an annoying Trawler that you can't deal with. Play this and name Trawler. Hope it resolves. And if it does, well then they can't hit you because you have protection from it. Oh, you don't like Duress? I don't know. You can name Duress, and then you can't be targeted by that. So, yes, you can both name creatures and just items that are really annoying. So, or like spells that are really annoying that generally target you. So, yeah, pretty awesome. Again, last reprinted in Ultimate Masters. So, then we have Baneslayer Angel. It's a 5-cost creature angel. This one was leaked. It's flying, first strike, lifelink, protection from demons and dragons, and 5/5. Pretty good card. If you want to see my thoughts on it, go to the video yesterday. It's pretty good. That was my general thoughts. We have Teferi's Protege. It's a 3-cost creature human wizard 2/3, and it says pay 2, tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Pretty bad, mostly in here for limited. But note, this does have a Teferi version, so keep that in mind. Alright, so our next card is Shipwreck Dowser. It's a 5-cost creature merfolk wizard with prowess and 3/3. This is when it enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So, very interesting the fact that it has prowess. So does that mean we're seeing a return to that in Standard? I mean, obviously if this card's in it, we are. But does that mean there's going to be more cards with it? Does that mean core sets are getting mechanics again? Because now we have prowess, mill, and phasing. At this point, it seems very possible that prowess might be a mechanic throughout, which is kind of interesting. Or maybe they're going to start moving towards making it evergreen. Who knows? The card itself is pretty good. It has prowess, and then it returns an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. I do worry about this in a Thassa deck, not because of the prowess, but because it allows them to constantly flicker it if they need to, and keep getting back instant and sorcery. So this might be a replacement for Agent of Treachery. I'm not sure. Those have kind of fallen out of the meta, so I'm not that worried about it, but we'll see. Next, we have Teferi's Tutelage. It's a 3-cost enchantment, and it says when it enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2 cards. So you're going to pay 3 to draw a card, mill your opponent for 2, and discard a card. And you know how I talked about milling being a mechanic? Well, yep, they've changed it. It's no longer target opponent puts the top 2 cards of their library into the graveyard. It's target opponent mills 2 cards and then reminder text. So I think this is much more elegant. I think that people have been calling it this for a very long time, so then making it a mechanic just makes sense. So, yeah. And the card itself, pretty, I'm not a huge fan of mill, so the fact that you can just turn card draw into mill is kind of irritating. Next, we have Teferi's Ageless Insight. It's a 4-cost legendary enchantment. If you would draw a card except your first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. So if you draw 7 cards, you're drawing 14, because for each card you are drawing it, and then you're drawing 2 instead. So doubling your draws is very powerful, which I guess... If you would draw a card except your first one in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. So, wouldn't drawing the 2 cards then trigger this ability again? Am I missing something? I feel like I'm missing something here. Let me know in the comments down below, because if you draw a card except the first one in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards. So if you draw a card, draw 2 cards. But then you're drawing cards, and then are you drawing more cards? I'm not sure. Maybe this only applies once. Who knows? That seems just a little spotty. Maybe I'm missing some rules interaction here, but I feel like this could have been worded slightly better. Next, we have Teferi, Master of Time. This is a 4-cost legendary planeswalker Teferi. It has 3 loyalty, and it says you may activate loyalty abilities of Teferi, Master of Time on any player's turn anytime you could cast an instant. So, what that means is that on your turn, on your opponent's turn, you can plus him, meaning you're actually, for the number of players you're playing against, that's how much his plus is. So if you have 1 opponent, he has a +2. If you have 3 opponents, he has a +4, essentially. But what's so great about this, and we'll see as I break down these mechanics, is that you can wait till your opponent's end step, and if you need to use his abilities and not plus him, you can. So he has draw a card, then discard a card for a +1. So again, for each opponent, you're doing this. He has a -3 that says target creature you don't control phases out, and then you have -10, take 2 extra turns after this one. So what basically this does is you play Teferi, and you +1 him on your turn. Then, say someone attacks you with him, and you can't block. You can -3 to phase that thing out at instant speed to protect him, because why let him die? Like, sure, you're trying to get up to that -10 to take some extra turns, or maybe you're just trying to keep him around to draw and discard. But, with some of the cycling cards that care about drawing and discarding. Why let him die when you could -3 him to phase out the creature attacking him? And then, sure, he's at less loyalty, but he's not dead. And what you can do is you can just wait till the very last second, right before it switches turns, +1. Right before it switches turns, +1. So, yeah, that's how you want to play this card. You do not want to just activate the ability anytime unless you need the draw trigger for something else. You'd be much better off saving it in case for some reason they're going to make some creature fight your Teferi, or they're swinging at your Teferi. You can phase it out if you need to. Alright, next we have Plunge. It's a 2-cost instant, and it says destroy target planeswalker or creature with converted mana costs less than or equal to 3. This was a foreign language card translated, so take this verbatim. Someone translated it. Yeah, pretty decent card. Abrupt Decay, but in mono black. Not bad. Pretty better in limited, obviously, than in standard. Next, we have Peer into the Abyss. It's a 7-cost sorcery, and it says target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and loses half of their life. Round up each time. So, yeah, you're going to want to just attack. This is going to be a deck that's going to want to ramp really quickly, so it's probably Simic plus black. And then you're going to try and cast this to draw a bunch of cards using all your mana. You're going to need some way to not have to discard all those cards right away because it costs 7 mana. I mean, you could probably somehow figure out a way to cheat this out. I mean, not cheat it out, but cast it for free. But yeah, the high cost and, losing half your life and paying 7 mana to draw half your deck, it's okay. Yeah, that's all I have to say. It's okay. It's probably going to be in some gimmicky deck, but I don't see this being part of the standard meta. Next, we have Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose. I covered this one in a separate video, except now we know its stats. It's a 1/3. Yeah, so check out my video from yesterday. Next, we have Grim Tutor. It's a 3-cost sorcery, and it says search your library for a card, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. You lose 3 life. I don't think Standard needed this. Now, first off, this is a Mythic, which I'm kind of glad for. It means less people are going to be using it, but I don't like combo decks. Like, I like combo decks, but I just feel like they don't need to be good, and adding a grab any card in Standard for 3 is insane. I get this card needed a reprint, but is this really the place to do that? yeah, this was last reprinted in Starter 1999, but I don't think this should have been printed into Standard. I think you're asking for trouble. I mean, Winota decks can now drop blue. Maybe they're going to pick up black, and then they're going to start playing this card to go get Winota. So, not a huge fan. Next, we have Liliana, Waker of the Dead. It's a 4-cost legendary planeswalker. Liliana, it starts with 4 loyalty, and it says +1. Each player discards a card, including you. Each opponent who can't loses 3 life, so it doesn't punish you if you can't. So yeah, symmetrical there, so pretty balanced. -3, target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. If you're putting this in a mill deck, this is basically just -3, kill target creature. It loses indestructible until end of turn. So, pretty good ability, especially with the gods running around right now. And then -7, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gains haste. So, -7 basically says win the game because you've been clearly milling yourself the entire game. Yeah, this seems like a pretty fun card to build around. Seems like a good inclusion in any deck that's already trying to mill itself, and overall just seems pretty fun. I don't know if this is really going to see any impact on the Standard meta, but it seems pretty fun. Next, we have Mayhem Jester. It's a 5-cost creature devil, and it says whenever you sacrifice a permanent, Mayhem Jester deals 1 damage to any target, and it's a 5/5. So this is Mayhem Devil, essentially, except mono red. So you can now run 2 of them, except also Mayhem Devil costs 3, and does it whenever any player sacrifices a permanent, which is relevant in a Standard filled with Fabled Passages. So yeah, slightly worse in terms of the ability, and it's more expensive, but it is better stats and mono-colored. So maybe we're gonna, I don't know, I feel like black really is necessary for sacrifice. So I think this will see play, just not sure how much. Next, we have Gadrick, the Crown Scourge. It's a 3-cost legendary creature dragon, 5/4 for 3 with flying, and it says it can't attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts, and then at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. So if you can somehow figure out a way to kill a lot of creatures without killing him, or you kill a bunch of creatures and then play him, that's good. My issue with this card is that it's not each non-token creature that died while he was alive. So say you do some weird effect where you're killing all creatures and then drawing a card, or drawing a bunch of cards, and then maybe you don't realize you're going to play Gadrick until the very end of your turn. You have to realize, wait, how many creatures died? I wasn't ready for that. So I do have kind of a problem with that. Of course, that's not a problem in digital, but in paper that does seem like an issue. Either way, I don't think this is going to see any play in Standard, but it's interesting. Next, we have Llanowar Visionary. This is a 3-cost creature elf druid. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card and tap to add a green. So it's kind of a mix of Llanowar elves and an elvish champion. 2-cost elf. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, and it costs 3. So right at that mana cost combination of the two. Probably not going to see any play. Only ramping for 1 on turn 3 is not great for Standard right now, but maybe it sees play in a Simic Thassa deck because of that draw card ability. Next, we have Fierce Empath. It's a 3-cost creature elf, 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost 6 or greater, reveal it, put in your hand, then shuffle your library. This might see play in a Simic Thassa deck, because it can keep flickering mists and then keep, it can just keep getting big things, and maybe you just flicker it, find a big thing with a big ETB, then start flickering that. So I think this will definitely see play in some Thassa decks. Also note this is another elf, which in Historic, which is another format I play, elves are really big right now, so adding more elves, not excited for that. Next we have Quirion Dryad. It's a 2-cost creature dryad, 1/1. Whenever you cast a spell that's not green, put a +1/+1 counter on it on Quirion Dryad. No, that's not what it says. It says it's white, blue, black, or red. So if you cast a red-green spell, you're still getting the counter, but basically it's just, yeah. So it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's going to be pretty decent. I mean, it's not bad. I don't know if this is really going to see play, but it's encouraging multicolor, and, so it's probably, I don't know. I don't think this is going to see play. It seems kind of gimmicky. Seems like a limited kind of card. Next, we have Primal Might. It's an X and a green for a sorcery, and it says target creature you control gets +X/+X until end of turn, then fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So at its base, this is just a better version of Prey Upon, which is just 1 green, target creature fights target creature you don't control. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control, because you can pay X0 for X, but if you want to, you can pay 1 for X, and then it's getting +1/+1 and fighting something. So this is just a monumental better version of that. Now I know that's not like the best kill spell, obviously, or the best fight spell, but it's just interesting to see that card is now completely irrelevant. I mean, it already was, but yeah, interesting card. Not sure how good it's going to be, but interesting. Next, we have Azusa Lost But Seeking. This is a reprint, very powerful, pay 3, legendary creature human monk. You may play 2 additional lands on each of your turns. In a deck that wants to just keep pumping out lands, which we do see in Standard, this card might end up seeing play in those. However, it seems kind of unlikely. I feel like they do play Growth Spiral, which costs 2 and draws you a card, so you might draw the land you're going to put on the battlefield, but the chance that you're going to be able to play this and have 2 lands in your hand is very slim, so I don't know how much play this is going to see in Standard, but I might be wrong here. Next, we have Tormod's Crypt, 0 cost artifact, tap, sacrifice it, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Awesome card for Standard right now, gets rid of things like Uro, and that's all I'm really excited about, but all of the escape mechanic and just, yeah, kind of hoses a lot of what Standard is doing right now. Next, we have Spark Hunter Masticore. It's a 3 cost artifact creature Masticore. As an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card, pay 3, or not pay 3, it's a 3/4, protection from planeswalkers, and you can pay 1 and it deals 1 damage to target planeswalker. Then you can pay 3 and it gains indestructible until end of turn. So, yeah, it's meant to combat those pesky Teferis that are just left around with 1 loyalty. But yeah, it can't be the target of Planeswalker abilities, which is kind of nice, but if they have any way to bounce it back to hand, then you have to discard another card. I wish this would have just had really bad stats and didn't have that first cost. But yeah, not a huge fan. I'm not going to run it, but I mean, it might be good as a sideboard card. Next, we have Chromatic Ori. It's a 7 cost legendary artifact. You may spend mana as though we're mana of any color, so you can just... You know how we had just had those really big ultimatums, that the best part, or the part that kind of balances them, is the fact that you need the colors for them? Well, not anymore. You may spend mana as over mana of any color, tap to add 5. So you're paying 7 for this, but then you're getting 5 back right away. So you're essentially paying 2 for this on turn 7. And then you pay 5, tap, draw a card for each color among permanents you control. So I feel like this definitely might be a definite include in a Simic ramp deck, because, okay, you know, at its worst, it's just you're spending 2 mana to not care about colors, and then it also gives you a draw engine, and a way to sink some of your mana for cards. So I feel like this could end up in one of those decks. It definitely seems like something that would end up in Brawl or Commander as a pretty good card. Alrighty, so next up we have Ugin the Spirit Dragon. We saw this one leaked, so check out my video yesterday. Next we have Indulging Patrician. It's a 3 cost Orsov creature, vampire noble 1/4 with flying and lifelink. I don't know why lifelink has reminder text, but flying does not. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, each opponent loses 3 life. So it's kind of like whenever I gain life, you lose life, but it's more cares about the quantity of life, and it can only do 3 per turn, and it's only at your end step, so it's not that great. But if you wanted to do something in a limited environment, this might be kind of interesting. Next, we have Rin and Sari Inseparable. This is a 1 red, green, white legendary creature dog cat 4/4. Just note this is the buy box promo. Whenever you cast a dog spell, create a 1/1 cat token. Whenever you cast a cat spell, create a 1/1 dog token. Pay 3, tap Rin and Sari, deal damage equal to the number of dogs you control to any target. You gain life equal to the number of cats you control. So you're either going to build a deck full of lots of dogs or cats or both. Pretty good card. I mean, it's probably meant more for Commander players, not so much Standard, but I could see building a Brawl deck around this. Seems pretty good. Next, we have Island. Normally, I don't cover basic lands, but this one's kind of fancy looking. I just wanted to use this as a note to remember that each Planeswalker has their own land. So this is a Teferi land. There'll be a Chandra Mountain, a Garruk Forest. So keep an eye out for these. So, yes, that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.